You think intimacy ends the moment it's over, but what happens next is where the real story begins, and most men will never see it coming. Today we're going to explore something that most people feel, but very few truly understand. We're going beyond the surface of attraction and stepping into the emotional and psychological depth of intimacy, the part that lingers long after the physical moment has passed. And I want you to pause for a second and really think about this. How many moments in your life stayed with you, not because of what physically happened, but because of how you felt afterward? That quiet emotional echo, that sense of closeness, or sometimes that unexpected distance? If you've ever experienced that, then you already know this conversation matters more than it seems on the surface. I'm Mary Smith, and welcome to Mindful Senior Living. Let's start. The emotional aftermath of intimacy is often far deeper than most people are prepared for. The physical experience may come to an end, but internally, something continues to unfold. There is a shift, subtle, almost invisible, but incredibly powerful. In that moment, the body transitions from intensity into stillness, and with that stillness comes a kind of openness that doesn't exist in everyday interactions. What many don't realize is that this moment carries a unique combination of vulnerability and relief. It's one of the rare times when emotional defenses are naturally lowered without effort, and when that happens, the mind becomes highly receptive. It begins to register not just the experience itself, but the emotional environment surrounding it. This is where things become deeply meaningful, because in that state, the smallest gestures begin to carry enormous weight. A calm presence, a gentle touch, a sense of being emotionally there. These are not just nice additions. They become the foundation of how that entire experience is remembered. The mind quietly asks, was I safe here? Was I valued? Was I seen? And the answer to those questions doesn't come from words. It comes from energy, attention, and presence. Think about that for a moment. How often do we underestimate the power of simply staying present? When someone feels emotionally acknowledged in that delicate space, the experience becomes more than physical. It becomes meaningful. The subconscious begins to link that moment with feelings of trust and acceptance, creating an imprint that can last far longer than expected. But here's where it gets even more interesting. This emotional imprint doesn't just sit in memory, it actively shapes future perception. The brain starts to associate that person, that interaction, with either comfort or discomfort, closeness or distance. And this process happens quietly, beneath conscious awareness. That's why two identical physical experiences can feel completely different depending on the emotional context surrounding them. You might be wondering, why does this happen? The answer lies in how the mind processes connection. Human beings are wired for emotional meaning. We don't just experience moments, we interpret them. We assign significance based on how safe, valued, and understood we feel. And during intimacy, that system is heightened. There is a natural release of bonding hormones, particularly oxytocin, which plays a significant role in emotional attachment. But here's the key point, it's not just the chemistry that matters. It's the emotional environment that gives that chemistry direction. If presence, care, and attentiveness are there, the brain strengthens the association with trust and closeness. If distraction, emotional absence, or detachment is present, the experience can feel incomplete, even confusing. And this is where many people unknowingly miss the deeper layer of connection, because they believe the moment ends when the physical act ends. But psychologically, that's just the beginning. Let me give you a simple example. Imagine two scenarios. In the first, everything feels rushed. There's a sense of emotional disconnection immediately afterward. In the second, there's calmness, a quiet presence, maybe even just a few seconds of genuine attention and stillness. Which one do you think leaves a stronger emotional impact? It's not even close. The second scenario creates a sense of emotional continuity. It allows the mind to settle into the experience instead of abruptly pulling away from it. And that settling is what transforms a fleeting moment into something that actually matters. Now, I want to ask you something personal. Have you ever walked away from an intimate moment feeling unexpectedly reflective, or even slightly emotional, without fully understanding why? That feeling isn't random. It's your mind processing vulnerability. Because vulnerability, when it's met with care, creates connection. But when it's met with absence, it creates distance, even if nothing is said out loud. And this is why awareness becomes so important. When you begin to understand that intimacy is not just a physical exchange, but an emotional and psychological experience, your entire perspective shifts. You start to realize that what happens after carries just as much weight as what happens during, and for those who truly understand this, everything changes. They move differently. They pay attention to details others overlook. They recognize that connection isn't built in grand gestures, but in subtle, consistent presence. And here's something powerful to consider. Most people are not consciously aware of what they're responding to. They simply feel the result. They feel drawn towards certain individuals without fully understanding why. They feel comfort or unease or attachment, based on signals that were never explicitly spoken. That's the subconscious at work. It remembers everything: the tone, the energy, the level of attentiveness. And over time, those small moments accumulate. They form a pattern that defines how someone feels about you and how deeply they connect with you. If this is already making you see things differently, I want you to take a moment and engage with this. Let me know in the comments. Have you ever felt a deeper connection after a moment that seemed simple on the surface? Just write the word aware. I'd love to see how many of you are starting to recognize this shift, because what we're really talking about here is not just intimacy. We're talking about emotional intelligence in its most unfiltered form. And as we go deeper, you're going to start noticing things you may have never paid attention to before. Not just in others, but in yourself. The psychological impact of intimacy goes far beyond the moment itself. When emotional openness and physical closeness align, the brain begins to process the experience in layers. It's not just sensation, it's meaning, interpretation, and memory being formed all at once. At the peak of that experience, the mind becomes incredibly receptive. It absorbs not just what is happening, but how it is happening. The tone, the rhythm, the attentiveness, these become signals that shape the emotional narrative of the moment. And this is why presence matters so much. Because presence communicates something powerful without needing words. It says, I'm here with you. I'm not distracted. I'm not elsewhere. I'm fully in this moment. And that message is deeply felt, even if it's never spoken. Now imagine the opposite. Imagine being physically present, but mentally distant. The body may be there, but the attention isn't. The energy feels disconnected. That subtle difference changes everything. Because the subconscious doesn't respond to appearances. It responds to authenticity. It knows the difference. And over time, it builds associations based on that truth. This is why emotional attunement, the ability to sense and respond to another person's emotional state, becomes one of the most powerful elements of connection. It's not about perfection, it's about awareness. It's about noticing the moment and choosing to stay present in it. And when you do that, something remarkable happens. Connection deepens naturally, without force, without effort, just through genuine presence. And we're only just beginning to explore this. The psychological impact of intimacy isn't limited to what you feel during the act. It extends well into the moments afterward. At the moment of release, the body experiences a subtle relaxation. Breathing slows, tension eases, and there's an almost imperceptible shift in energy. But this isn't just physical, it's emotional. That state of calm opens a doorway for reflection, for emotions to surface naturally, for the subconscious to start processing the experience in ways we often don't consciously recognize. It's like the mind is quietly taking inventory: what was safe, what was meaningful, and who was present in a way that mattered. Small gestures during this period, like lingering touches, gentle eye contact, soft words, or even just a warm presence, can amplify the impact tremendously. On the flip side, rushing away, distraction, or detachment can undermine the effect entirely. Every subtle action, no matter how small, communicates messages to the subconscious. Am I valued? Am I safe? Am I seen? This is where the invisible threads of trust, vulnerability, and emotional bonding are woven. Think of it like planting seeds. Each moment of attentiveness is a seed that grows into a deeper connection, whereas indifference or inattentiveness can stunt that growth. Over time, these seeds accumulate, creating an intricate web of emotional memory. Your brain remembers not just the act itself, but the way attention was given, the energy that was shared, and the presence that was maintained. And that is precisely why intimacy can feel profoundly life-changing for some people. It's the subtle, almost imperceptible cues that make the experience unforgettable. Consider this scenario. After an intimate moment, one person remains calm, present, and emotionally available, while the other drifts into distractions or detachment. Who do you think the mind will remember more vividly? The one who stayed present. It's not about grand gestures or eloquent words. It's about showing up fully, even in silence. That's the invisible power of emotional attunement. Now, let's explore vulnerability a little deeper. Vulnerability is often misunderstood as weakness, but in reality, it is the ultimate signal of trust. When someone allows themselves to be truly seen, emotionally and physically, they are placing faith in the other person's capacity to hold that trust with care. That act alone triggers a cascade of emotional responses, creating a sense of safety and connection that the mind recognizes long after the moment has passed. And here's an important insight. Vulnerability and attentiveness are like partners in this dance. One without the other can create imbalance. If vulnerability is offered but met with distraction or absence, the mind registers dissonance, and the emotional impact weakens. If attentiveness is given but vulnerability is missing, the connection feels shallow. True intimacy requires both, the openness to be seen and the conscious choice to be fully present. Hormones like oxytocin reinforce this process, creating neurological pathways that associate shared attention and care with trust, comfort, and attachment. But these chemicals don't act in isolation. They respond to emotional cues, presence, and attentiveness. That's why even small acts, like gentle touches, soft whispers, or a few moments of silent eye contact, can leave outsized impressions. The subconscious records these as signals of safety and acknowledgement, embedding them into memory. Think back to a time when a fleeting gesture made you feel deeply connected to someone. Perhaps it was the way they held your hand or how they maintained eye contact without saying a word. That moment sticks precisely because the subconscious interpreted it as validation, care, and emotional presence. But what happens if this process is interrupted? Abrupt disengagement, emotional detachment, or inattentiveness can break the subtle rhythm, diminishing the psychological impact and even creating feelings of distance. The mind does not forget these cues, it remembers them, and over time, patterns emerge. Connection deepens or falters based on these repeated experiences. Awareness of this can transform not only intimate encounters, but also how relationships develop overall. Let me share a story to illustrate this. A woman I once spoke with described a relationship in which intimacy always felt rushed. Her partner was physically present but emotionally absent afterward. Despite the physical closeness, she didn't feel connected. Contrast that with another relationship where the partner would stay present, hold space for her, and offer quiet moments of attention after intimacy. She described those experiences as profoundly memorable, emotionally grounding, and trust-building. The physical act was the same in both cases. The difference lay entirely in the emotional and psychological handling afterward. This shows us a fundamental truth. Intimacy is never merely a physical act. It is a dialogue between bodies, yes, but more importantly, between minds and hearts. Every small action before, during, and after communicates messages that the subconscious records. These messages form an invisible but enduring bond. Now, here's a thought-provoking question. How often do we pause to reflect on what we're communicating through our presence, energy, and attention during intimate moments? Many people focus on performance or physical pleasure alone, missing the far more profound psychological experience unfolding beneath the surface. And this is where emotional literacy comes into play. Understanding the emotional and psychological layers of intimacy gives you the power to influence connection consciously. You begin to notice the subtle shifts in energy, the importance of attentiveness, and the impact of even the smallest gestures. You start to recognize that the psychological aftermath is as significant, if not more so, than the act itself. When you approach intimacy with awareness, the result is deeper trust, more meaningful attachment, and a richer sense of emotional closeness. It's no longer just about physical pleasure, it's about creating lasting emotional resonance. This understanding also reshapes how you interpret others' behavior. When someone responds with care and presence, your subconscious reads that as validation and safety. When they withdraw or disengage, it signals disconnection. The mind is always noting, always processing, even when we aren't consciously aware of it. And here's a subtle but critical point. The post-intimacy energy shift is one of the most underappreciated aspects of connection. The body's relaxation signals the brain to transition from high intensity to reflection, opening space for emotional processing. Calmness, contentment, or even a reflective heaviness can emerge naturally. These states are incredibly fertile ground for bonding if met with presence and care. Even silence can communicate love and safety if it is accompanied by attentiveness. Conversely, rushed exits or distracted behavior can inadvertently signal neglect, weakening the bond that was just formed. This is why cultivating awareness in these moments is a game changer. It allows you to consciously transform fleeting physical experiences into lasting emotional imprints. And once you understand this, your entire approach to intimacy, and even to relationships more broadly, can evolve dramatically. The subconscious bonding that occurs here is one of the most powerful, yet often overlooked effects of intimacy. Hormonal responses like oxytocin release are only effective when paired with the emotional environment that supports trust, presence, and safety. Even small gestures like a gentle touch or quiet eye contact are recorded as signals of care and affirmation. Over time, these subtle cues accumulate, creating a pattern that shapes future interactions, attachment, and emotional closeness. Recognizing this pattern allows us to understand why some intimate experiences feel transformative, while others feel fleeting or empty. The difference lies in the emotional attentiveness, the conscious and unconscious cues that signal care, trust, and validation. The key takeaway? Intimacy is never just about the act itself. It is about the attention, the presence, and the emotional resonance that accompanies it. It is about creating an invisible thread that continues to connect people long after the moment ends. And as we go further, you'll see how this thread is woven not only through gestures and touches, but through the silent language of energy, body, and attention. Now let's delve even deeper into the subtle, often invisible language of intimacy, the way energy, attention, and nonverbal cues shape emotional experience. What happens after the physical act may feel quiet, even ordinary, but the mind is anything but passive. It's actively recording, interpreting, and weaving the emotions into memory. Every breath, every pause, every small touch becomes part of a story that your subconscious is constantly telling itself. I am safe here, I am valued, I am seen. Nonverbal communication in these moments is often far more powerful than words. A lingering hand, a soft embrace, gentle eye contact, or simply staying present in silence can all speak volumes. The body becomes a language of its own, conveying reassurance, care, and attention in ways the conscious mind may barely register. Even subtle shifts in breathing, posture, or energy are noticed and processed. Over time, these cues accumulate to form an enduring emotional narrative of the connection. This is why someone can remember an intimate experience years later, not for the physical sensations, but for how they felt in the presence of the other person. It's the feeling of being emotionally acknowledged, of having one's vulnerability honored, that leaves the most profound impression. And this is also why abrupt disengagement or inattentiveness can be so damaging. The subconscious remembers absence just as vividly as presence. Let me give you another example. I once spoke with a couple who described their experiences of intimacy in entirely different ways. One partner always lingered afterward, holding, looking into their partner's eyes, simply being present. The other often hurried away, distracted by phones or work. Both partners reported identical physical experiences, but the emotional impact was worlds apart. The partner who stayed emotionally attuned created a lasting sense of security and closeness. The one who withdrew left a subtle sense of incompleteness that lingered over time. This illustrates a fundamental truth. Intimacy is a psychological and emotional process as much as it is physical. It's a series of conscious and unconscious signals that communicate safety, trust, and validation. Awareness of these signals allows you to consciously enhance the emotional experience, creating bonds that are remembered, cherished, and felt long after the body has relaxed. Let's talk about the post-intimacy energy shift. At the moment of release, the body naturally relaxes. The intensity of anticipation and sensation gives way to calmness. Breathing slows, muscles loosen, and the mind enters a reflective state. This transition is a powerful psychological signal. It's a moment when emotions can surface freely, and the mind begins to solidify the experience into memory. Calmness, contentment, or even a reflective heaviness often follows, and these feelings are amplified by awareness of closeness and shared vulnerability. During this time, attention and presence matter immensely. Small gestures, a gentle hand on the shoulder, soft words of affirmation, or simply maintaining eye contact can profoundly enhance the emotional imprint of the experience. Conversely, abrupt disengagement or distracted behavior can break the rhythm and weaken the sense of connection. Understanding this energy shift is essential because it signals the psychological transformation from a purely physical act into a deeper emotional experience. Hormones like oxytocin reinforce this process by strengthening bonds and attachment, but their effect is amplified or diminished based on the emotional context. Presence, care, and attentiveness give these chemical signals direction. Without them, even the most intense physical experience can feel hollow. With them, the experience becomes memorable, meaningful, and emotionally resonant. And here's the most fascinating part. The subconscious does not just remember the act itself. It remembers the context, the subtle energy, the attentiveness, the way emotions were acknowledged or ignored. Over time, these imprints shape how someone experiences closeness, trust, and attachment in future interactions. They accumulate silently, forming a foundation for long-term emotional patterns. This explains why moments of intimacy can feel life-changing. They are not simply remembered as pleasurable experiences. They are remembered as moments of profound emotional significance. The mind records not just what was done, but how it was done, how it felt to be fully seen, and how safely vulnerability was received. Trust and vulnerability are at the core of this process. Allowing someone close enough to be vulnerable is an act of faith, a silent declaration that it is safe to be open without judgment. When that vulnerability is met with care and presence, it triggers deep emotional responses that the mind carries long after the moment ends. Vulnerability is not weakness. It is a signal that the emotional bond is strong enough to handle honesty and exposure. Every small action communicates to the subconscious. This connection is safe, respected, and valued. Even silence can communicate love, care, and attentiveness when accompanied by presence. Conversely, neglect, distraction, or inattentiveness can undermine trust, weakening the psychological impact. The balance between giving and receiving attention during these intimate moments creates a feedback loop. Emotional closeness deepens, and the mind remembers not just the act, but the sense of being valued and understood. Let's pause for a moment to reflect. How often do we truly consider the emotional aftermath of intimacy? Many focus only on the physical act, missing the profound psychological and emotional currents that continue to flow afterward. Awareness of these currents transforms the experience. By recognizing the subtle shifts in energy, presence, and attention, we can consciously enhance connection, creating bonds that are enduring and meaningful. At the end of the day, intimacy is never just a physical event. It is a gateway into trust, connection, and shared emotional experience that is often invisible but profoundly real. Every action, every pause, every touch before, during, and after leaves an imprint on the subconscious, creating memories that shape how people experience closeness and attachment. And this is precisely why understanding the psychology behind intimacy is so empowering. It shows that real connection is not a single act, but a continuum of conscious and unconscious signals, gestures, attentiveness, energy, and presence. Those who recognize this and act with awareness leave a mark that is remembered, cherished, and deeply felt far beyond the physical moment. If you found yourself reflecting on these insights so far, take a moment to engage. Drop the word connection in the comments so we can start a conversation about the depth of these experiences. And remember, being present, attentive, and emotionally aware is not just about romantic relationships. It shapes every bond in your life, from friendships to family connections. As we bring this conversation to its deeper conclusion, I want you to take a moment and truly absorb what we've uncovered together. Intimacy is never just about the physical moment. It is a doorway, an entry point into something far more profound. It is about emotional presence, psychological connection, and the silent language that exists between two people when words are no longer necessary. What happens before, during, and especially after, that is where the real meaning is created. Because the release itself is not the final chapter, it's the beginning of a different kind of experience. One where the body softens, but the mind opens. One where emotional signals become louder, even in silence. One where the smallest gestures carry the deepest meaning. And here's something I want you to really sit with. People rarely remember the exact details of what happened physically, but they will always remember how they felt in your presence. Did they feel safe? Did they feel valued? Did they feel seen without needing to ask for it? Those questions are quietly answered in the moments that follow. This is why awareness is everything. When you understand that intimacy is a continuous emotional exchange, not a single act, you begin to move differently. You become more intentional, more present, more attuned to the subtle shifts that most people overlook. And this isn't about perfection. It's not about getting everything right. It's about care. It's about choosing to stay, even in stillness, choosing to be present, even when the moment no longer demands performance, choosing to give attention, not because it's expected, but because it deepens connection in a way nothing else can. Because in those quiet moments, that's when trust is either strengthened or silently weakened. Now let's go even deeper for a second. The subconscious mind is always forming associations. It's constantly asking, what does this mean for me? Is this safe? Is this real? And it answers those questions not through logic, but through feeling. So when someone experiences presence, warmth, and attentiveness after intimacy, their mind links that experience with emotional security. It creates a kind of internal imprint, one that says, this is someone I can relax with, this is someone I can trust. But when there is absence, distraction, or emotional withdrawal, a different imprint forms, one that says, something is missing here. Even if the person can't explain it, they will feel it. And over time, those feelings become patterns. Patterns of attraction, patterns of connection. This is how powerful these moments truly are. And this is why two people can share the same physical experience, yet walk away with completely different emotional realities. One feels connected, the other feels unsure. One feels closer, the other feels distant. The difference is almost always found in what happened after. So if there's one thing I want you to take away from this entire conversation, it's this. Presence is the most attractive, powerful, and unforgettable thing you can offer another human being. Not perfection, not performance, not words. Presence. Because when someone feels your genuine presence, your undivided attention, your calm energy, it creates something rare. Something that stands out in a world where most people are distracted, rushed, and emotionally unavailable. And that kind of presence, it lingers. It stays with people long after the moment ends. It becomes the reason they think about you when you're not around, the reason they associate you with a sense of ease, trust, and emotional safety. Now, let me ask you something one last time. What kind of emotional experience are you leaving behind in the moments that truly matter? Not just in intimacy, but in every interaction. Are you present? Are you aware? Are you creating connection or unintentionally creating distance? These are the questions that shape not just relationships, but the quality of your entire emotional life. And the beautiful part is this. You can shift this at any moment. You can choose to be more present. You can choose to pay attention. You can choose to understand the emotional depth behind what may seem like simple moments. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. And when you begin to apply it, you'll notice something remarkable. Your connections will feel deeper. Your interactions will feel more meaningful. And the way people respond to you will begin to change. Not because you're doing more, but because you're being more. More aware, more attentive, more emotionally present, and that is what creates lasting impact. If this conversation resonated with you on a deeper level, take a moment right now to engage with it. Like the video, share it, and subscribe to Mindful Senior Living. And before you go, I want you to do something simple. Go down into the comments and write the word connection. Because that one word represents everything we talked about today, the invisible thread that binds people together. Thank you for being here with me, and I'll see you in the next conversation.